I will go
Okay.
live. Good morning and welcome to the pre-proposal conference for RFP 111 FY23 for review of a specific staffing allocation, also known as planning factors. I am Hamad Hamidi and I am the Senior Procurement Specialist for Arlington Public Schools. Also representing APS during the conference are Leslie Patterson, the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Management Services, and also the APS Project Manager for this project. During the conference, the RFP will be reviewed, questions are welcome and will need to be submitted in writing through the Q&A capability during the meeting. Questions will be addressed at the end of the conference. It needs to be emphasized that even though this conference is provided to help offerers gain a better understanding of this requirement, it remains the offerer's responsibility to be familiar with the content of the RFP and know what information is required to be included in a proposal submitted in response to this RFP. I would like to thank those attending for your interest in this APIS requirement, and with that, I will now review the RFP. So the RFP number is 111 FY23. The proposal due date is April 17 by no later than 11:59 p.m. Sealed proposal shall not be submitted by mail, express mail, or in person at CIFEX Educational Center, but will do so instead electronically through a secure cloud-based file sharing platform. Firm wishing to submit a proposal are required to upload all tab 1 to tab 6 through the platform provided in APS website. A link to the webpage is provided below. To assist offerer with its proposal submission, a screenshot of the step required to submit proposal are attached in Appendix G. For a proposal to be considered for award, it should be received by no later than 11:59 p.m. on Monday, April 17. Proposal received after the due date shall not be considered, and a confirmation will not be provided that the proposal have been submitted to platform. However, if the offerer want to request a confirmation, please reach out to me through my email or phone number. This is the link to our current solicitation. It will take you to the procurement office website. And minutes of this proposal, including question and answer, will be shared in APS website and also in EVO through an information item. Further question other than this conference shall be submitted to me and Leslie by no later than 5 p.m. on April 6, 2023. This RFP will only be, we will only make changes to this RFP by issuing an addendum. The addendum will be posted in EVO and Procurement Office website. Offerer shall confirm the receipt of all addenda by marking this page or by signing all the addendum and should submit the addendum with their proposal. Questions during this proposal and question received after the pre-proposal will be answered through the information item. An information item will be posted in the same manner as an addendum. If your proposal contains a trade secret, please mark one of the following options. And your SCC number should go here. Please select one of the options that's applicable to your company and provide your SCC number here. SCC number is not your tax identification number. The department status, please choose one of the options provided in these pages to confirm your department status. The type of business, please select one of these options. And the name of the offerer, mailing address, and other information should be provided here. The page 1 through 5 of this RFP shall be submitted under the tab 1 of your proposal. The background is the summary of a scope of work and will be addressed in detail during reviewing of the scope of work. Now I'm going to turn it to Leslie to review the scope of work and objective of the contract.
Thank you, Hamid. Good morning, everyone. The background and the scope are very much the same. What we're trying to do is Arlington Public Schools provides staffing to its schools based on formulas, what we call planning factors. And we want the consultant to come in and look at our planning factors and do a couple of things. We want them to decide or to analyze how these planning factors actually align with the school board's strategic plan, its the school board priorities, and the performance objectives of the strategic plan, and see how well those are aligned. In addition, we would like you to provide recommendations for how the planning factors should be adjusted based on a number of things. One would be a review of surrounding school districts and how they provide staffing for those particular areas. Another would be an examination of best practices across the country. Another would be if there was a national association that recommends a certain staffing model for that particular position, what does that look like and how do we meet those standards? We are asking for also whether or not the planning factors are based on the right things. So a lot of it is based on what our general population enrollment is, but we do have some that are based on our special education or English learner populations. But we also are looking at whether or not we need to include other factors as part of the formula for allocating the staff. So whether or not the school status should play into that, or if the size of the economically disadvantaged students, the number of students in the school makes a difference and should impact how the planning factors are provided. Another would be percentage of students in a school with additional needs. If there's a larger special education population and a larger English learner population in a school, that might need more resources than a school that has much smaller populations or almost no students in those two areas in that school. That would be the same for the economically disadvantaged student reporting group. Test scores, how are our students doing? Are they in the bottom quartile or the bottom two quartiles compared with their peers at other schools? And should this be taken into consideration when we provide staffing to our schools? These are not the only things that should be considered or could be considered. We are providing those as examples of the kinds of things that we want you to investigate. So the first part of the scope of work is around special education planning factors. We have a number of planning factors for our students with disabilities across all categories. And what we would like to see is, as I said, in assessing the alignment between what we're providing and the strategic plan, the school board's priorities, the school board's budget direction. Also, alignment with the Virginia Standards of Quality, which has some benchmarks for how staffing should be provided, examining how that's done in surrounding jurisdictions, best practices and emerging trends, as far as as well as any national associations. For the special education planning factors, the Office of Special Education put together a proposal after working with a group of employees, staff here, and interested citizens, came up with a proposal a couple of years ago for changing our planning factors. So the first step not only after you do all of the other things, assessing the alignment with surrounding jurisdictions and alignment with the strategic plan, et cetera, is to review the proposal provided by the Office of Special Education and whether or not those proposed changes align with all of the things we've just talked about, and whether those are the correct changes to the planning factors based on your analysis and research. Once that you've done all of the analysis, we would like you to develop recommendations. And the recommendations could be as simple as saying, you should take the proposal from the Office of Special Education and implement that, or we believe there's a better way to do it, and this is the way that you should do it. We would like for there to be 3 options, and this is true for every part of the scope of work. It is basically telling us how to implement. So whether or not we can implement in 1 budget cycle, 2 budget cycles, or 3 budget cycles. So because chances are that this is going to result in additional staff, chances are that we will not be able to implement in 1 year. So your proposal must include which planning factors should change and how in a phased-in implementation over 2 and 3 years. And you will be required to present these findings to key stakeholders, including the school board, APS executive leadership team, and the departments that would be impacted, and schools as well. That would include a detailed implementation plan, as well as any training that might need to happen to ensure that everyone who is providing staffing understands what the new process is and what the new planning factors look like. And then provide an ongoing evaluation of the impact of these changes as we go through the next year or 2 or 3. That's the first part of the scope of work. The second part is an equity analysis. And last fall, we underwent some review by Equity Journey Partners and Allovue around planning factors and equity. And we would like you to do sort of the same kind of thing you're doing with the special education planning factors, which is assess the alignment, examine how other districts are doing, allocating staffing to ensure equity, assess any best practices, as well as anything from any national associations, how they compare with the Virginia Standards of Quality, and then determine if there are factors other than enrollment, as I mentioned in the first part of this section, that should be used to allocate staffing to ensure that we have equity across schools. Basically the same end result based on the analysis, what your proposals are, how we should change the planning factors, what considerations we should take into account, and then again, how would you implement it over 1 budget cycle, over 2 budget cycles, and over 3 budget cycles. Again, a presentation to key stakeholders, et cetera, a detailed implementation plan, and an ongoing evaluation of the impact. The third section is around English learner planning factors. These are our students who are English learners. Their first language was not English, so they are considered English learners. We would like to have a review of the planning factors for those students using the same kinds of criteria that I've mentioned previously. We also have information from a Department of Justice settlement agreement that we would like to have reviewed to ensure that we are meeting the current staffing that is outlined by that settlement agreement. And then if we should change our planning factors in any way based on any of the analysis that is undertaken, looking at the strategic plan, our surrounding jurisdictions, best practices, et cetera. And then any other types of considerations that we should take into consideration, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation. Again, we need options for phasing in the implementation of those new planning factors, and then the presentation, detailed implementation plan, and ongoing evaluation. And then the fourth section outlines some very specific planning factors that we would like to have the same kind of analysis done for. It includes our school testing coordinators, school social workers, school psychologists, school counselor, resource teacher for the gifted, assistant principal, dean of students, and then our minimum and maximum class sizes for grades K-5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. Basically, the same kind of analysis is expected for each of those positions and for the class sizes, just to make sure that we are doing what we should be doing, or if not, what changes should we make to ensure that we are in alignment with all the things that we want and that we're providing the resources that we should be providing for our schools. And then the same implementation over 3 budget cycles for each of the positions, a presentation of the findings, and a detailed implementation plan. For deliverables, we want these recommendations for changes to our planning factors to be able to be incorporated into the FY 2025 budget and beyond if it's phased in. The FY 2025 budget will typically be developed in the fall, November, December timeframe, which is why we're asking for the results of this analysis to be ready in November so that we can decide how to move forward in the 2025 budget with these recommendations. We are expecting a comprehensive report on the current state of our staffing allocations with a detailed analysis of our current processes and procedures and how those allocations align with our organizational goals and industry trends and best practices. We want recommendations for optimization, which includes a detailed implementation plan, and that implementation plan for over 1, 2, or 3 years. Again, a presentation to the key stakeholders, etc. A training program, should it be needed. Supporting documentation for these new staffing allocations so that we understand how they were developed and how they were arrived at, so that if we need to update them in the future, it is something that we can undertake on our own more easily than what we're doing right now. And a final report documenting the outcomes of the project, as well as an evaluation of the effectiveness of the staffing allocation processes and procedures after a specified period. We expect this project to begin in May, as soon as award and negotiations have taken place. We expect it to end in March 2024. I say that because while we want the report to be available in November, there may be some meetings and presentations that would need to take place with the school board and others after that report comes to us, so that there can be discussion around how these allocations were arrived at, what your main recommendations are, etc. So we'll start with an initiation, with a kickoff meeting to talk about the scope and the timeline, the budget, etc. We'll talk about what the current state of our allocation processes are, and we'll show you exactly how we do everything that we do now. We have our planning factors online, should you care to look at that, apsva.us//budget-finance, and it will be on the, what do you call that on the left-hand side? The ribbon on the left-hand side that says planning factors. You'll be able to find that and the history of them as well, because we have a lot of years out there. Development of recommendations, and then the presentation of the recommendations. It could be that the presentation takes place over a couple of times, mainly because presentation to key stakeholders might be a different presentation than that to the school board. The implementation planning, which includes the development of a detailed implementation plan, training and documentation, talked about that. And then go live obviously would be launching those new allocation processes and procedures, which would take place in FY 2025, which begins July 1st, 2024. We have the evaluation of the effectiveness and then closure of the project after that.
Thank you very much, Leslie. So after that, the minimum qualification of the offerer must have completed or currently engaged with a minimum of 2 projects of similar size and scope within the last 5-year period to the proposal due date. The offerer must possess at least 5 years of continuing experience in delivering services that are similar to this solicitation. And also the key staff must have a master's degree with 3-year experience or a bachelor's degree with 6-year experience. So all questions related to this RFP should be submitted to me and Leslie. And this is the tentative schedule that we have for this contract, and that you can review it. Proposal requirement. So APS proposed contract document has some terms and conditions. And if an offerer wish to consider any change to that document, such changes must be submitted in writing in their exceptions tab. The proposal format and content should be as follows. The first tab is administrative tab, and the offerer must submit the requested file with their proposal, then the executive summary. After that, the offer information, so you can make your proposal based on this structure. The cost proposal will go in tab 4, and also I would like to recommend that do not put any cost information in your technical proposal. The cost information should only be provided in their cost proposal under tab 4, not any other places. And the exceptions to the non-mandatory contract term and conditions should go in tab 5, and any trade secret should go in tab 6. The proposal evaluation method is that the selection advisory committee or SAC will review all the proposal received by the procurement office. The offerer shall submit, as I said before, any exceptions to the contract document in the tab 5. An offerer shall be deemed to have waived all objections to and accepted all provision of the contract document to which no exception is included in the submitted proposal. We shall not accept any exceptions, during the negotiation stage. So all the exceptions must be submitted with the proposal. Any industry standard shall be submitted to the tab 5. So after the SAC have completed the initial evaluation of the responsive proposal received by the procurement office, it will select the offerer to participate in shortlist interview to provide information that will clarify offer proposal. This is the way that we do the evaluation. So the first thing is that the procurement office will do the responsiveness review and will submit the responsive proposal to SAC member. Then the SAC will review will initially review the proposal and will score them based on the criteria that I will provide more information in detail later. Then they will determine that which offer should be requested for shortlist interview. Upon once the shortlist interview concluded, selection shall be made of 2 or more offerers deemed to be fully qualified and best suited among those submitted proposal on the basis of the evaluation criteria. Negotiation shall be then conducted to those offerers who have been selected during the shortlist interview. After the negotiation, the APS will consider to award the contract to the best proposal based on their technical and financial proposals. So as I said, the proposal evaluation has 3 stages: initial evaluation stage, then the shortlist interview stage, then the negotiation stage. And the criteria and score assigned to each part of the RFP is outlined here. This is the score for the initial evaluation criteria. For the initial evaluation criteria, the different parts of the proposal will be scored based on this criteria. And the shortlist interview, this is the criteria that will be used during the evaluation of the shortlist interview process. And for the negotiation stage, we will use these criteria to evaluate your proposal during the negotiation stage. So these are the important and the must document that should be submitted with your proposal. The first document is Appendix A, or conflict of interest. So this appendix must be submitted with your proposal under tab 1. Then the next one is non-disclosure and data security agreement. This also must be included with your proposal under tab 1. And the next one is the insurance checklist. So the insurance checklist, you may check the boxes before each requirement, and then the insurance company or agent should sign here, and also the offerer. And this checklist must be submitted under the tab A1 of your proposal. Then this agreement, this appendix D, is just for information purposes. You don't need to submit this back to us. And the contract term is, as we mentioned before, is up to March 31st, 2024. This is just for information purpose, and you may review the term and condition of APS. And also, this is the contract term and condition. This is just for information purposes. You don't need to submit them back with your proposal. But if you have any exceptions to any term and condition, you may submit that under your exceptions tab. So all these are different term and conditions that we have in our contract template. The insurance coverage detail is provided here. So this is the simple purchase order. This is also just for information purposes. You didn't need to submit that with your proposal. And this is the step that I mentioned at the beginning of the proposal, that how to submit a proposal to APS. This is the step-by-step guidance. You can follow this to upload your proposal. And the pricing schedule should go here. You can provide your cost proposal under tab 4 using this template. This is this is the milestone and payment plan. So a completed appendix H must be submitted with your proposal. So with that, that's all for the reviewing of the proposal. Now I will go and see if there are any questions to be answered. So currently we have 4 questions. The first question is, has Arlington Public School made arrangements to secure information from competitor school division, or is this something that vendor would have to negotiate with each school division?
I can answer that.
Okay.
We have not asked surrounding jurisdictions for their allocation processes and how they provide staffing in their schools, but a lot of them do publish that information. I believe it would be just a matter of reaching out to each school division to ask for that information.
Thank you. The next question is, would a staff member be assigned to the project to act as liaison and build capacity in the division? Is it possible to review the DOG agreement before proposal submission? Leslie,
Would staff members be assigned to the project to act as liaison and build capacity in the division? More than likely, I'm going to be your liaison, but it also could be our budget director and the person who currently does all of the staffing and holds the master spreadsheet. So there could be a couple of liaisons, but yes. Is it possible to review the DOJ's agreement before proposal submission? I do not know the answer to that. I will have to get that information.
Thank you. And the last question is, does the current state assessment include determining in the currently published staffing allocation or being implemented and followed system-wide?
That's a good question. That I think is a bigger question. You might find as you go through the process that the allocations to the schools are not being faithfully followed. We do allow principals the ability to switch out some types of staff for others. So it's possible that it's not being adhered to in exactly the way that you might think. One of the things that we are trying to do is to figure out what schools actually need, so that we can sort of end this practice. I want to say end it because I don't want that to get out and everybody be upset with me. So that we can be very, very, very limited in the number of positions that are switched out for other positions. If positions are being switched out, then there's something wrong with the way that we're allocating staff. If everybody's doing it for the same reason. So if everybody's trading in art and music staffing for math coaches, then maybe we're providing too much art and music staffing. That is not part of this which are not part of this plan right now, this RFP. But that's kind of where we want to be. We want to be providing the right staffing in the right places. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Leslie. We will also provide written answers to these questions along with other questions that we may receive by April 6th. So, but the recording of this proposal will be available today. So I think there is no other questions in the queue. That conclude the proposal conference, the pre-proposal conference. I would like to once again thank you very much for your interest in this APS requirement. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.